everyone. Thank you for being here and honoring the planet and honoring this incredible project here that many people are anticipating for the planetary mindfulness that we all need to come together. Not only this weekend, because it is honoring here Earth Day, but we should be honoring Earth every day. And as a result of that notion, we here at Zeta Global Radio, both Howard and I, have had the pleasure of working with a team of partners, from Aaron Taylor, who's a producer of We Know Not What We Do, to Elizabeth Galen Baker, who's the writer and director of We Know Not What We Do, the original climate change film, that got us inspired to get us to this point where here we are almost a year and a half, almost 2 years later. We've curated an astonishing group of global musicians and artists and celebrities and thought leaders and thought influencers and people hopefully to provoke change on this new collection coming together called Music to Heal the Earth. And today we just have a glimpse, a snapshot of the entire album, but we will continue to have shows leading up to the album's release. And today I get to start off with, haven't met everybody, but I got to meet Robin and Igor when I was in England a couple months back with Howard. So it's a real treat to welcome Igor, Robin, Auto Rotation. They are an experimental electroacoustic band from London. And without further ado, here they are. Welcome to Zeta Global Radio. So glad to have you here.
Hello.
Hello. So first off, welcome to Zeta Global Radio. I know we're probably going to have you on time again. And then welcome to this album we're now calling M2 Heal and Music to Heal the Earth, because you are part of this mass collection, and I think you know some of the other musicians on, so it's sort of like a family coming together.
We know quite a few of the people that are on the album.
Well, Howard's I think he's all about the curation of like-minded spirits coming together and bringing forward good things for humanity. So that's what you two are doing. And you've been doing music for a long time. So maybe talk about Auto Rotation, whoever wants to start first. Because if you go onto your autorotation.bandcamp.com, there are a lot of albums. So this isn't your first rodeo doing music in the public eye. So maybe just give us a little bit of background.
Yeah, I mean, Robin and I met a few years back in Canada, in Toronto, and we kind of got together through music. We started, making music first, and then the rest came. And then in 2006, we moved to the UK, to Southeast London, where we still live. And a few years after that, we met our third member, Laura, and now we operate as a trio, doing kind of,
political and environmentally engaged music.
Exactly. Yeah, not most, but a fair chunk of our lyrics that Robin writes are political and environmental specifically.
I just can't help myself.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, they're so poignant, but off air, you're one of the funniest people I've ever met. You're hysterical. You're witty, and oh my God, you could throw some zingers. So anyways, I just needed to throw that out, because on top of being political, environmental, I mean, you got to kind of laugh at some of the hypocrisy and things that are going on. And I mean, the fact is that we don't even use the word climate change anymore for this album, even though it was inspired from a climate change film, because that became political overnight, when really that's what this is about, is that the planet's changing on so many ways. And so we are now calling it planetary mindfulness.
Yeah.
No, it's gone through quite a few phases, I think, and probably more to come. But I mean, okay, I'm kind of jumping ahead of things here, but the song we wrote for, well, not actually originally for the collaboration, but Clear Scope, the piece that is on the collaboration, is it's basically about, it's my letter to planet Earth, saying, kind of saying, sorry, we're horrible humans, and as soon as we're gone, you'll be fine. But also at the end, as with most of our songs, we try to be cautiously optimistic. And what I'm trying to say is that the environment, our planet, it's not supposed to be political. It's not about the marketplaces. It's not about religion. It's fact. If we don't sort it out, we won't survive.
So true. That's so true. Igor, did you want to just tag on to that at all? Or
I mean, both of us come from kind of scientific, technical backgrounds, and we, believe that science really is the answer, and environmental science points towards all the negative effects of humans on the environment, so that can't be ignored. It's nothing to do, as Robin said, with politics or religion or what you believe. It's about hard facts. So that's kind of where we come from.
Well, as I mentioned earlier about your Bandcamp page, you have amassed a ton of albums. Have all the albums, have they been a journey and an evolution from who you are to who you are now? Or has it been a common theme like all the way through? Or tell us more about that. And then actually what's coming up for you guys as well?
I mean, we have, even though many people say, oh no, you shouldn't mention political issues in music, I just feel like, well, this is the platform I use for just about everything I think about, so why the heck not? If people don't agree with it, they won't buy it. Simple as that. That's fine by me. If you don't like a painting, you don't hang it on your wall, do you?
I don't think U2 had a problem with stating how they felt about the world.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, as far as the themes of our music, I guess we haven't really done themed albums. We've always, or rather I've generally written about socio-political situations, primarily the ones I'm situated in at each stage of the game, if you like. As you know, it's always been a case of, starving artist. Nothing changes there. But
hopefully it will. Hopefully we're creating a new paradigm.
I'm waiting for Star Trek to happen, and everybody has no such thing as money. We're just all searching our inner.
Hey, I did a show a couple of weeks ago on cryptocurrency, and boy, that flipped my head in all sorts of directions with this Bitcoin, altcoin.
Yeah, cool. No, we're quite happy to play for donuts and coffee.
Coin?
And Bitcoin, that's fine.
And Bitcoin. So what's in the future for you? Besides the fact that we hopefully will see you on the stage at one of our great awareness concerts, particularly in England, for Music to Heal the Earth in 2019. How about new material? What's happening for you guys?
Yes, well, we are working on a small kind of 4-song EP with Howard.
Nice.
Yeah, we will have that released hopefully soon. It's kind of a collection of a bit gloomy, self-critical, but cautiously optimistic songs.
Cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
Well, Robin says you come out the other side in the song, right? There's always some sort of silver lining.
Always an epic ending.
Good.
They're not exactly political, but they are just asking questions, basically. And but other than that, we have a couple of small shows. Yes.
The name of it.
Oh, yes, we came up
live and original to you only.
The name of the EP.
Yeah, the name It's going to be called Mapping the Dark Room.
Mapping the Dark Room?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, so we'll see. Make of that what you will. What else do we have? I mean, the whole theme of our existence as musicians has been exploration of themes, of sounds, of ideas, and that's what we are going to do in the near future. Just toying with few directions, maybe doing even some solo stuff. We'll see. I mean, we can kind of
That's if I can get my head around new software.
Yes.
What do you mean by that? New software?
I find, working with computers, which is the only way to do music these days, it's kind of my stumbling block. I'm a hands-on kind of girl. I like to play my piano and play my guitar and sing, and if nobody understands, then damn it.
And by the way, speaking of piano, how is your composing coming along?
Oh, that's actually the basis of my little solo exploration, and I'm kind of transferring that onto computer. Just me stumbling around with that weird thing they call a laptop.
I hear ya. So is the best way for people to learn more about you prior to the album's release, should they go to the Bandcamp page? Is that the best way to learn about your world?
Yeah, go to Bandcamp or just go to autorotation.org.
Okay.
Our main site, and there's links there. You can watch videos, listen to music, do whatever you want.
Even send us a message.
There you go. Yep. And pick up some of these incredible albums. By the way, speaking of these incredible albums, so how much thought, because you guys are both extremely brilliant, scientific-minded, extremely artistic, how much goes into what's going to be on these album covers? Because each one is so, impactful, powerful, and you're probably like, oh, it's just simple. It was the first thing in my phone. Or it was like, wow, we really thought about that one too. Took us 6 months. I just wondered what goes into the design of these album covers.
We have had help from our friend Craig, who's an incredible graphic designer.
Yeah.
And for the upcoming release, we are talking to a designer in Germany to help us with the design, to create something impactful and meaningful related to the song. So
you'll have to wait and see, I'm afraid. But she's a really lovely woman that we met in Berlin recently, and she draws the most incredible, what do they call it, outline drawing?
Line drawing.
Line drawing. Yeah. She does nature, basically, mostly like rabbits and wildlife. It's just incredible stuff. So we've got a few ideas that we're going to put her way. But if you think about the name of the EP, Mapping the Darkroom, there might be a few clues in there.
Got it. Well, I thank you guys for being here and taking the time to give us a little bit more into the world of auto rotation, and we'll look forward to being in touch with you again. And again, thank you. I hope everyone gets a chance to get to know Robin and Igor a little bit more. And of course, you said now you guys are a trio. Is that something that happened, kind of just evolved naturally, adding Laura into the mix?
No, we had actually previously been, in many formats. We've always collaborated. I mean, it can get kind of stagnant, just two people working together over and over again. I mean, that's not to say it's not a sound basis, but it's a bit like picking up a new instrument when you meet someone else who has great ideas, and you just, bounce them off each other. But also, I think for the live aspect, you really need to have something a bit more interesting than people looking at laptops.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah, Laura definitely brings that. She's a percussionist and a vocalist. So, we have at any stage two percussionists working, Igor and Laura both drumming, and Laura and myself both singing. And, as she's a multi-instrumentalist, we can sort of hop around from different instruments and make things a bit more interesting for our audiences.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see you guys perform live. That's going to be a special treat of mine. Why don't you guys hang on the line for just a second? We're going to take a quick break with our audience. We come back, we have a whole rest of the show with all sorts of badassery going on here with the musicians from Music to Heal the Earth. You're listening to Zeta Global Radio. We'll be back in a moment. Are you ready to delve deeper to find the truth of who you are and discover your own unique gifts for the world? Have you searched for an understanding of your creative expression and how to bring that into form? World-renowned spiritual practitioners Teresina and Martin Bacons invite you to 2 special upcoming Enlightened retreats. May 17th through 19th, join Teresina with co-presenter Cheryl Ryder for the powerful retreat Healing with the 5 Elements, held at the Sevilleta Federal Wildlife Refuge between Belen and Socorro, New Mexico. On June 8th through 10th, Teresina and Martin Bacons will be back teaching the sacred spiral of the phenomenal people, now reserving on the beautiful tropical paradise of Pine Island in southwest Florida. You'll join others to celebrate the sacred understanding of self, remember the ancient wisdom encoded in your body, and the opportunity to explore the creatrix within. You will emerge with the experience of an even more inspired, empowered you. Early registration and pricing is available for both retreats, and for more information, please visit beaconsoflove.com. That's beaconsoflove.com.
Spiritual Communities Network, where we honor the uniqueness in our oneness. Visit our website to meet our vast spiritual community of healers, therapists, conscious events, and activities. Visit and check out our directory, upcoming retreats, workshops, products, free videos, and much more. Many services are available globally by phone, Skype, and other sources of media. You'll also find more information on how you can be a member to promote the work you're doing in the world. Visit us now at spiritualcommunitiesnetwork.com.
Welcome back to Zeta Global Radio. Thank you so much for being here today. And whether you're a music lover, whether you are a planetary lover, whether you are just a conscious human being here to see other people making significant strides in planetary mindfulness, we're so glad you're here. And I'm really, really thrilled to have this moment in time, this divine appointment, to introduce you. For those of you who do not know Robin Rimbaud, he is from the world of Scanner. He goes by Scanner. A lot of people know him. I love this, Robin, before I even bring you on, I love reading, I've read over and over, traverses the experimental terrain between sound, space, image, and form, creating absorbing multi-layered sound pieces that twist technology in unconventional ways. I don't know if you wrote that, Robin, or someone else did, but it took me on a mind-bending journey of like, wow, I want to know more. So welcome to the show, Robin Rimbaud.
Thank you. And to be honest, I wrote it. I confess, I'm good at writing that kind of spiel.
Well, you know, there's a couple of them, like that was one, and then I saw bewilderingly diverse arrays of genres. Whatever it is, I mean, it's probably hard to define someone like you who's so expansive and creative, and maybe words are, you're beyond the words. What do you think?
Yeah, sometimes they're a little bit incompetent to embrace what I and other people do, because many of us today are shapeshifters. You know, we do many different things, and diversity in our lives has become something that's much more widely acknowledged, I think. In the past, we all held fairly more straightforward roles in a sense. You either held down a job, you were a parent, you did whatever almost was on the tin. And these days, in our kind of more new technological age, where we have the ability to shapeshift a lot more, I think it's almost impossible to use tags and say what you are, even in terms of the genre of music. You know, every now and then I get slipped under ambient or electronic, but sometimes it's industrial, sometimes it's classical, sometimes it's modern ambient. Goodness knows, next week it'll be something else. But it's not a problem. I'm quite happy confusing people, to be honest.
Well, I have to just mention this, and are you a Thomas Dolby fan? Does Thomas Dolby have any influence?
Yeah, I'm very familiar with his work, yeah.
I don't know if you know that actually many years ago, that's how Howard and I came together. I had Thomas Dolby coming into a big festival I was working on and needed to produce a Thomas Dolby wanted to come in, and he had a short film, and he wanted to score it live. And I thought, oh my God, how am I going to produce a Thomas Dolby show? Not only because I'm a fan, but because he when I think about innovation and technology, now that I know you, Scanner or Robin, I just somehow feel a correlation there because he was such a pioneer of the time. I just wondered what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, absolutely. He certainly, has been a pioneer and a very bright fellow, actually, in all the kinds of projects he's been hooked, into. I mean, it's interesting that he began in the public eye as a pop musician, with some very striking hit singles, and moved into kind of new technology. And I know that I haven't actually read the book. He wrote this book quite recently in the last year or two, which has proved to be very popular and successful. And I keep meaning to pick up a copy just to kind of read through his stories and see what happened on the inside, so to speak.
Well, when you were starting out, because I know, like, say, for instance, he was such an innovator, when you were getting into creating the work that you do, was it always this, or did it evolve into sort of the genre that you now express?
Well, it's tricky. I mean, I've always been led by technology, in a sense. When I was very young, when I was 10 and 11, we had a very old-fashioned sort of plastic tape machine where you could record anything. You could put batteries in it and record your walking around the garden. You could record TV shows, all sorts of things. So I used to record. Everything. And in fact, I still have all those tapes. I've never actually disposed of any of them in my kind of very archival manner. And so,
Wow.
I still have those, and I moved on to using a reel-to-reel tape deck, and finally I bought a cassette multi-track so I could put more than one sound on top of another, and then discovered computers. And in a sense, the development and trajectory of my career has been largely reflected in the technologies that I've bought and acquired and borrowed and found and helped develop. And I think that's what's interesting, other creatives. Your work is altered by the tools that are available towards you at that time. Here we are talking over a fairly, decent line from one side of the world to the other on a piece of technology which didn't exist that long ago. And we largely, or lots of people largely, take it for granted now. But I'm of a generation that still remembers when the internet first came around. I still remember going in London to a cyber cafe for the first time and queuing up with other people so you could log on to a dial-up computer, so you could send an email to a friend somewhere, probably in the same city most likely, the absurdity of it, and communicate with other people in the world. And to me that was so futuristic, but today it's literally, for many people, like opening the water on a tap and seeing it flow through. And when you don't have it and you check into a hotel or your internet line goes down, we know how frustrating that can be. So my career, yes, has largely reflected the kind of technology that's been at my grasp and what I can use and what I can exploit and what I can develop with it.
Well, I think about, first off, back in the days, because of course you named Scanner. Do you want to just share for those who are new to you why you have the name Scanner? And then I'm going to tell a story and see if it has relevance.
Okay, so back in the late 1980s, early 1990s, I was using a long-range radio receiver, which is otherwise known as a scanner. And it's a bit like a shortwave radio, but it's a long-wave radio. So what it allowed me to do was tune through the airwaves that are around us, not digital, but analog. So what it meant was, at one end of the scale, I could listen to taxi drivers, I could listen to cycle couriers, I could listen to hospital paging systems as people paged the doctors or sent messages around. And at the high end of the scale, I could listen to the private conversations of people on their mobile cell phones. So
Wow.
I would spend my time addictively listening to other people having very intimate conversations on the telephone, which is interesting because it prefaced our whole notion of what the internet is today. It sort of anticipated the conversations we're having about public and private space and what an artist can or can't use, and all these kinds of questions which have always fascinated me, but particularly around that time. And so, my work at that period, and there was a whole kind of suite of works which continued for about 5 to 8 years, where I would essentially turn up in New York or Paris or wherever it may be, switch on the radio scanner whilst I was on stage, start live transmitting of the airwaves and seeing what was actually there in real time. So in many ways, the work was a kind of mirror to the moment. So when I recorded or when I performed a show in New York, it would be very much about that moment in time. And then I would start improvising a soundtrack around it. So my career has followed this very unusual trajectory, which again has been led by the moment, taking these kinds of risks. And, it proved very controversial, as you can may well imagine at the time. I mean, the press were fascinated by it and the public equally so. And to this day, it's still something I'm quite happy to talk about, because it certainly had a position to play, in what it offered within kind of electronic media, and reintroducing the voice, the human voice, back into electronic music and experimental music that had largely been lost, because, lots of it was either ambient or spoken or sung or just instrumental. And therefore, the reintroduction of the human voice, and this kind of very raw, naive human voice. It wasn't there for broadcast. It wasn't there to be heard by others initially. And therefore, it offered something completely new to listeners.
Well, I think back, and I know I want to bring us further in the time when we have left with what your contribution is to Music to Heal, but I'm just going to comment that time period that you're referring to back in Los Angeles, where I grew up, the big craze at that point, at least with the underground, was the use of CB radios, and how the ability to be able to go breaker 1919 or 104 or whatever, I forgot even what it was, but to be able to listen to conversations, like you said, from people all around, I thought it was so fascinating. So here we are in 2018, and we are coming together for a very special, I'm not even going to call it a cause, it's really an opportunity for people to remember that we need to be mindful, and we need to remember that there's a lot of things going on this planet that's requiring planetary mindfulness. So your contribution is so vital, and so is everybody who's joined together and feels the need to make a difference through their artistry. So let's talk about your contribution and your piece that you are bringing forward to Music to Heal. How's that?
It's a simple piece in many ways. I mean, my works have largely been about, in a sense, connecting with people, connecting with real people, and telling stories with music. And, I kind of still believe in the goodness of people. We live in an age which is quite unsettling for many people, but is it any more unsettling than other times? It's hard to say. We're just much more aware of what's happening today. So music has a power, to embody all kinds of experiences and feelings. And, I can load it with what I feel I want people to experience, but people always experience that and respond to it differently. So, it's a positive attempt to try and move forward without kind of negativity in a way. I'm not a passionate tree hugger. I like nature very much, but I believe I'm still an optimist, and I believe in the goodness of people. And there are individuals and situations which, unfortunately, are not conducive to living such a positive lifestyle. But they're, in the bigger picture, they are in a minority, and terrible things happen. But music is a very joyful thing and a very, emotional thing, and it's something that still has great, great meaning to me over the years. I'm still somebody that listens to music. If I'm not making music, I'm listening to music from the moment I wake up in the morning, from 5 or 6 in the morning, until I stop working at the end of the day. So, it's a force that it's still to be reckoned with. And whether somebody is buying it, whether they're streaming it, whether they're stealing it, to be quite honest, to my own career, it doesn't make any difference. I never anticipated making a living from selling product. I was always interested in people and telling stories and making works that connect with people. So hopefully my contribution is a piece that for one very small moment actually modestly offers something to engage and move people, and actually uses electronic music and produces or offers something that's much more organic in a sense. It's artificial because it's using electricity and zeros and ones from the computer, but also I want it to feel very real and very connected.
Terrific. And the song is called London Bridge?
It is.
Yeah, perfect. Well, we'll let people just receive of that song along with all the other beautiful pieces, and it's such an eclectic, diverse mix, and for us, Howard and I share that how important it is that the uniqueness is so in the oneness, that all of us can come from such different backgrounds and styles of choices, but the commonality is oneness and all of us coming together. So I thank you for being part of it. Thank you for hopefully we get to see you perform one of these days when we get these awareness concerts going. And thank you for being on the show today. It means a great deal to us, and we're so glad that you had some time to spend with us in your busy schedule.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Absolutely. I'm happy to support any project that has meaning.
Yeah, thank you. And what's the best way for people to learn more about you, dive into your world?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they can just go directly to the website, which is very easy, which is www.scanner. And that's one word, scannerdot.com. But I'm somebody who's always embraced all the social networks. I'm very easy to find on Twitter. I'm easy to find on the Facebook, on the Instagram. Most social network connections, I'm sitting there somewhere, and I'm not hidden. I'm quite visible. And I respond to people. I'm maybe one of those rare individuals that actually directly responds to them and answers questions and engages in a conversation. So I'm easy to find.
Lovely. Well, I feel very excited we had this time together, and I look forward to connecting again. Robin, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks.
All right. We'll be taking a break right now. We'll be back in a moment.
Trice Massage Therapy and Skincare is Southwest Florida's premier holistic and wellness spa to relax and rejuvenate your well-being. Founded by Lucille Trice, this enlightened haven located in Cape Coral offers a variety of massage therapies including Swedish, deep tissue, and trigger point massage. Trice offers detoxifying body wraps and facials using natural organic ingredients to pamper your skin and restore balance and health. Visit their Trice Massage Therapy and Skincare Facebook page or call 239-672-0526 and book your experience today. Mention ZGR and receive a complimentary ionic foot detox experience.
The Remedy is Albuquerque, New Mexico's premier urban day spa. Created with you in mind, The Remedy offers a spa experience that goes beyond the highest quality treatments and products. They're there to help you relax, regroup, rejuvenate, and escape a bit from your busy life. You'll feel it the second you walk in their doors. They have a distinct menu of Ayurvedic services and therapies to infuse a sense of peace and well-being, while allowing you to enjoy a luxurious feel and experience. Ayurvedic lifestyle consultations are available, and suggested treatments that include Shirodhara, Marma work, therapeutic massage, Ayurvedic oils, detoxification, and nourishment of the body. For more information, please visit theremedydayspa.com today.
Welcome back to Zeta Global Radio. I am here in this segment, really excited. So we were over in London with our first two guests, and now where are we, Robert? Are we going to be in New York?
New York City in the East Village.
All right, so we are here talking to Robert Poss, musician, composer, sound engineer, formerly from Band of Susans back in the day, and continuing on with his solo career. So welcome to the show. Welcome to the Music to Heal the Earth planetary mindfulness show for Earth Day, Robert. We're so glad to have you here.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here.
So New York is actually one of the areas that we will be looking to do what we call the awareness concerts. So that's more to be continued as we go down this journey. But now we're just talking about introducing the different musicians who are part of this collective, and we'll have a series of them. And you are on our first show, so maybe just give people a little bit of a background on who Robert Poss is, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'm best known and most associated with a group called Band of Susans, and we were active from 1986 to 1995. We were part of a wave of very often New York-based, although some were Chicago-based and other places, sort of loud guitar bands. Our sort of compatriots or colleagues in this era was Dinosaur Jr., Sonic Youth, Jesus and Mary Chain, the Pixies, number of other bands. In fact, our label mates at Blast First, which was our UK-based label, were the Butthole Surfers and Sonic Youth and Dinosaur Jr. and Steve Albini's projects, Big Black and Rape Man. And so that's the sort of scene we were from, very loud guitars. I had a sort of more, I think, compositional approach to how the band worked. And by the way, the reason it's called Band of Susan is because the original incarnation of the band had 3 women named Susan, all friends of mine, and that was our provisional name.
That's wild. That's wild in itself, don't you think? 3
Susans, and I sort of feel if we had chosen a sort of more hard-edged name, we might have gotten a little further. But the name stuck, and we kept it. And Susans came and Susans went. The final incarnation of the band had 1 biological Susan only. And then subsequent to Band of Susans, and we did a lot of touring in Europe and the U.S., and we were on several different record labels. Subsequent to Band of Susans, I've been doing more experimental and ambient music and guitar-based music for choreographers for modern dance. I've worked with several choreographers performing and composing music for them, and I've released a few solo records. And my main interest is in, I would say, is much more about the texture of sound and the architecture of sound rather than singable melodies or sort of conventional arrangements. And I work a lot with electronics, with synthesizers, analog synthesizers, processing the guitar. And I think that I have a new record coming out hopefully in a month or two, and you'll hear more about that in the future.
Well, first off, thank you for all of that. And I'm feeling a common thread so far is that a lot of the guests who've been on the show today, and we have more to come, feels like there's been sort of an evolution in your own musical journey from back in the day where it was sort of, could be punk, could be industrial, could be metal. And now it's kind of, as life has gone on, has evolved. And obviously with technology too, there's so much more to play with. So you mentioning now going into more ambient and textured layers and sort of that multi-dimension feels like I'm hearing that as a common theme of interest. And obviously I see that even in Howard, is where he was with industrial to now creating sort of his new music with Hathor. So I'm just hearing that with you, and I'm excited to hear your music and let the audience hear that. Is that similar to what you are including in the compilation from Music2HealtheEarth, or do you want to talk about what you have submitted or what you'll be contributing?
Yeah, I've submitted a piece called Estuary, and when this project was brought to my attention, it it resonated with me, partially because growing up, my parents were, this was actually in the 60s, were very involved in what was then called ecology or conservation. So we were members of the Audubon Society and the Sierra Club, and they were avid bird watchers. And what we would do on the weekends, where everyone else, I guess, was going to ball games or something, we would go out and we would do these nature walks and look at birds and look at animals. And so I grew up with sort of an awareness of the nascent environmental movement in the 60s into the 70s. And I think my parents instilled in me a certain sort of respect for the natural world and for animals and plants. And my father actually studied botany when he was in school, although he ended up being an optometrist. So, the fact that this project has to do with the earth and with some of these same concerns,
Sure.
Resonated for me. And the piece that I did called Estuary, I think I was picturing when you look at a stream or you look at a body of water that is moving over rocks and obstacles, you get all kinds of reflections and small eddies and small movement. And I was trying in a very metaphorical way, not in a direct way, to reflect through my guitar arrangement some of those small eddies and minor currents and reflections and refractions. So that was the mentality behind the piece.
Well, that's absolutely beautiful and so appropriate. And I'm thinking about how you said we used to call it conservation, and earlier in the show I was talking about how now we're calling this planetary mindfulness, because words are evolving and climate change is suddenly taboo. But if you look at the life around us, we're having significant effects in the world due to the environmental changes. So we have to adapt with it. And so for us, yeah. So I love that. I love the resonance that you had before, during, and now currently. So thank you, and I look forward to the world hearing your piece. And what is on the horizon besides M2 Heal in your world? What else are you working on?
Well, I have a new solo record which I'm just in the process of finishing. Actually, I was mixing some of it today, and it is called Frozen Flowers Curse the Day, which makes more sense perhaps when you see the song list and you see the songs. And it's a mixture of sort of composed works, some of which are more sort of on the rock side of things, and some of which are more on the sort of droning side of things. And then I also include a live performance, which I generally do in my recordings, a live performance of music I did for a great choreographer named Sally Gross, who actually died a few years ago, but I've worked with her for a number of years. Very sort of austere, minimal, lovely woman who had a great dance company. So it's a varied record, and I've also been playing in these sort of what I call art rock bands, and I sort of say that with a bit of a smile. There's a band called Heroes of Tulik, and it had Billy Ficca, who's a drummer from Television, and Ernie Brooks, who's a bass player in the Modern Lovers, and a guy named Evans who also played with me in Reese Chatham's group, and he also played with Glenn Branca. So it's a bunch of old people like us. A great violinist and a wonderful painter named Jennifer Coates, who played violin and sang. And so it's been a sort of a shifting cast of characters, but we perform, fairly frequently in New York, mostly in small places in Brooklyn. So that's sort of my pickup band. And I've also recently started playing with this ridiculous band called Everything. That is a purely improvised group of shifting cast of characters. We don't rehearse. We don't even know each other half the time. We go to a club and we play. So it's sort of like the art rock equivalent of free jazz, I guess. And that's a lot of fun. And one of the advantages is the venues we often play at are just a short walk from my apartment. So,
bonus. Well, that to me really speaks volumes. For instance, on this show, I never really prep questions. I just stay in the organic process of whatever's supposed to come in and whatever conversation I'm supposed to have, and wherever it goes, it is. And so I can only imagine what that is if all of you are on stage and just whatever is in the field, as I always say. That's got to be super exciting. Is it in a particular genre or just whatever comes up? You get a beat and you go.
I think the original concept was sort of a nod to what's called krautrock, sort of Germanic, sort of arty rock. But it's really all improvised, and someone will just start playing, and then the rest of us will figure out what key it's in or not and perform. It's a bit anarchic, I guess, and the great thing is it's totally low pressure. We all the people that perform in this particular group are very experienced musicians and of different ages and from different backgrounds in terms of music. And, it's I guess I would say recreational in the sense I don't think any of us feel that we're making some great artistic contribution to the world. On the other hand, it's probably fun to listen to and fun to see, certainly fun to perform in.
Well, I believe that Music to Heal is going to make a great artistic contribution to the world, and thanks to you and everybody else who's on it, we're so grateful that we're bringing this awareness as a collective, and thank you for being here today. Do you want to just tell people how they can learn more about the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I have a website which is simply my name, robertposs.com, no period, just one word, Robert Voss. You can also find me on Facebook, and you can also Google Band of Susans. Lots of material, lots of videos on YouTube, lots of old tour videos from us in Germany in 1993 and things like that are kind of fun. And so, yeah, I'm out there on social media. I'm on Instagram as well, I believe, as Robert Voss. So, yeah, there's lots of pictures of guitars and amplifiers is what you'll find on Instagram.
Fantastic. All right. Well, we're going to take another break here. Thank you to our incredible sponsor, Muscle Tuners International, for being part of this journey with us. Robert, thank you so much. We will be in touch, and I hope to have you back on the show soon as we develop more about Music to Heal the Earth. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much.
Sandy Wyndham is Florida's premier artistic photographer. Her passion shines through every picture she takes. Whether creating a series of artistic shots, headshots, corporate shots, or capturing one of life's most memorable moments, she just can't be beat. Consider Sandy Wyndham Photography. Visit her now at sandywyndham.com and let her know you're a ZGR listener for special discounts.
Hi, Lainey Savante here, and I'd love for you to visit my new Facebook page for my private tarot and oracle session readings called Intuitive Wisdom. That's IN2 UITIVE Wisdom. Conscious strategies for manifesting a more harmonious life. Don't we all want to have that? Let's see what's in the cards for you as we look at what needs to be cleared, expanded upon, and evolved. There's a lot to explore when we take a deeper look inside ourselves. Welcome back to ZGR. Thank you so much for being here today. Like I said earlier, thank you for caring about the planet. Thank you for loving music. Thank you for being motivated to make change in your own world. And that's what we're talking about today. Of course, this is all Earth Day weekend, and we highly recommend you to share this far and wide, this great, great show. We're talking about Music to Heal the Earth. And this is just a snapshot of what we have coming together. And in this episode, in this segment, I'd love to introduce you to Paul Lemos from Controlled Bleeding. And I can't wait to find out why you call it Controlled Bleeding, more about Controlled Bleeding, and your thoughts on it all. Welcome to the show, Paul Lemos. So glad to have you here.
Thanks, Lainey. It's nice to be here.
Well, we're going to have, we're developing one of these, what we're calling them awareness concerts for Music to Heal the Earth. First, we want to get the album out. Secondly, once the album's up and running, we want to have 4 locations. We want to have one in Seattle. We want to have one in New York next year. And then we also want to head over to England since we have so many people interested in the subject matter, as well as 35% of the artists on the label are there. And then also we want to get to Reykjavik, Iceland. So when we come to New York, we definitely want to see you and be a part of this even further. So let's introduce people to who you are. I'm sure a lot of people, because you haven't had Controlled Bleeding for a few minutes. You've been around. So let's tell people about Controlled Bleeding and then what you're up to, and then we'll get into sort of the topic of planetary mindfulness.
Okay, that sounds good to me.
Well, first I want to know why. Tell me about Controlled Bleeding, and for our listeners who don't even know about the type of music it is, just give us sort of the 101 on who you are and what is Controlled Bleeding. Controlled
Bleeding has always been the band moniker under which I've worked. It started probably as early as maybe late 70s, and it was pretty much inspired by a lot of the New York punk and British punk stuff that was going on, combined with my love of, extreme prog, like stuff like Mahavishnu Orchestra and Henry Cow. So it was a weird collision of ideas that, I was sharing with some friends in Boston. And then that lineup kind of broke down in the late 70s, and I came to New York. I came back to New York and started working with my friend on a new lineup, which was the first recorded lineup around, maybe 1978. And we played CBGBs, and we played all of the bars, with groups like Suicide. A lot of CBGB's bands. Just nobody gave a damn about our music at that time. It was all instrumental, and it was just really kind of high-powered, almost kind of a collision of fusion and punk music, and nobody understood it. And finally, that imploded after a lot of sweat and blood. And around 1983, I re-entered the fold with some friends of mine that were local guys, a guy named Joe Papa and Chris Moriarty, who I'd worked with for probably 2.5 decades. And I just started exploring other ideas. I just started exploring kind of primal scream therapy. After my other band imploded, I just had to just kind of vent. And so the resulting music, the results of the recordings were just kind of an extreme noise venting. It came, that was best articulated in a record called Knees and Bones, probably from like 1983 and 1984. So it really had nothing to do with music. It was more just layers and layers of feedback and machinery and distortion, all being recorded live and saturating the tape.
What I was going to, how well was that received? I mean, was there something going on in society that reflected that, or was it more personal?
Being in a place like New York and just dealing with the day-to-day grind, it was just a way of just venting all of the poison and, just kind of emotional viciousness in a controlled way, you know what I mean? So instead of maybe getting to fights and, bashing someone and getting my head bashed in, this was a way of, maybe in a creative way, of kind of articulating what was going on with us. It's hard for me to really pinpoint. I just think there was a lot of angst at the time, and this was a place for the poisons. And the strange thing was that I think in America, really, there wasn't a lot going on like this, at least not documented on albums. I mean, there was a lot of cassette material, and there were experimenters dealing with cassettes, but I think Knees and Bones was probably one of the very first American, what you might call power electronics records. And it got into the hands of a lot of people at that time, so I think, because there wasn't a lot like it, it was able to make a mark. I know, people like Al Jorgensen from Ministry and Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails and people like that maybe were buying those really early records. But I was always a school teacher, too, so I was doing that and, teaching school simultaneously. So I never kind of really wanted to do the full-time music thing. And then, of course, over time, I kind of went back to a much more conventional music once all that outpouring of angst was done. I didn't need it anymore, and so I think we were able to explore much more musical terrain in the years that followed.
Well, I'm thinking about what you're saying, and it just seems extremely relevant now that there is a lot of angst and there is a lot of aggression, and, politically we're in trouble as far as I'm concerned, and here we're doing an album called Music2HealtheEarth for the reason that we are having some distress, and a lot of people do want to scream. And how are they getting their thoughts out? What are they doing? And it seems that a lot of people do gravitate to music for some sort of release or for some healing. So you're perfectly in line with what we're doing, I think.
I think probably the piece that you chose was something from quite a bit down the line where there was deeper ambience to it. It wasn't such volatile work at the time. Like I think the song that is appearing on the album is from an album called Songs from the Ashes, which was a really melancholy kind of ambient piece of music. Our earlier work would have fit on this.
Yeah. And so we were talking off air a little bit about how things come full circle. So what are you working on now in addition to your day job teaching high school students? I'm curious to know with high school students how what their viewpoints are with some things called Earth Day. I mean, are the younger generations, do you even know that they're interested? I know that they are in gun control. I hope they are in saving the planet, too.
Strange thing, because, the kids that I teach are so oblivious to most social problems, it seems. They're not really that active in any way regarding the environment or really any social issue, They kind of just are very, they're very insulated little worlds at this point, from what I gather, So, again, I teach in a private school. I'm not seeing necessarily the real world, but from what I gather from my students, I don't see a real push to, I don't see a real awareness of the state of the environment from them, and the kids aren't particularly political. It seems that they imbibe their politics from the views of their parents.
Yeah, I agree with that.
What I was getting when the whole election process was taking place. And it was very interesting initially, as in the beginning, all the students were talking and very pro-Hillary. They were all talking about how their parents were voting for Hillary. And then as time went on, over that whole, I don't know, how long was it? God.
Too long.
There was a much more vocal presence among the kids, rooting for Trump. It was a strange thing, the way it just all reversed over the course of time among them. If there are any if that's any kind of barometer of, the voice of the voting public.
Well, what I could say is that they having teenagers, a tweenager and a teenager, I do notice that, of course, the advent of nonstop phone attached to their ears and their eyes has made me realize that the way to get to the future generations, and I think it has always been that way, is through music and media, and that's really why we're all coming together. Is how can we make a better imprint on the planet in any cause, really? And I think media and music does it, because if somebody hears a song and then they find the backstory of why that song was developed or why that album was put together, or link it all together and understand the greater depth of it, I think we may be onto something. That's what I'm hoping we're all going to achieve here with Music to Heal the Earth.
Yeah, hopefully. I was going to say that, my two bandmates of many years had passed away within 2 years of each other.
Oh.
It's a musical limbo about, I don't know, maybe 5 years back. I was just kind of, ready to pretty much give it up. I didn't have much inspiration. And then I got together with a few people, one guy that I had known for a long, long time, and just started playing again, and things started picking up, and the band, of a different shape, became very active. I mean, and we're extremely active now. The last record that we made was called Larval Lumps and Baby Bumps, and it was a very visible record for us, and, extremely volatile music again. I mean, so it's kind of going full circle where the music is taking on, high aggression, and it's kind of very similar to some of the things we were doing, even before Knees and Bones. It's very guitar-driven, but highly aggressive and fairly noisy.
Well, is that out, or that's in development right now?
That record came out about a year, maybe 2 years ago. We're working on some newer things that are in a similar mode, though.
Oh, very cool. So where's the best place for people to learn about that and learn more about your music?
Everything's online now, but the thing for me about the online presence of the music is that, it's also random. People just pick out random songs from Spotify. There's not so much focus on, the actual albums. And I'm always thinking, maybe a 12-track suite of pieces that go together,
Telling a story.
Well, maybe in some way, but just pieces that should be working in some way together, so some kind of audio journey or whatever. And yeah, it does. It really frustrates me that it's all available in so many mediums online, but there's no continuity to any of it. It's just kind of this random smattering of stuff that we'll be introduced to, and it doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, I think it's multi-sensory overload, yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem. There's just too much of everything that's constantly coming at people, and it kind of all shuts down the process of the way people should listen to music, and I think the art of it is somewhat lost now.
Well, I'm excited to hear your music as it comes full circle, and your piece that will be on Music to Heal the Earth, and of course getting a chance to see you in person when we're in New York as this project develops and unfolds. So thank you for being here today. I know you're busy doing a lot of good stuff, and
it'll be nice to be in New York, sure.
Terrific. So we're going to say goodbye to everybody who's been listening all hour here on the Music to Heal the Earth and the planetary honoring of Earth Day. So thank you to everyone. Big thanks to Muscle Tuners International. Please visit them at muscletuners.fit. And of course, our webpage, our Facebook page, all our social media. You can find us on YouTube and allow a greater expansionary time to learn more about the musicians you heard here today. You're listening to Zeta Global Radio. Until next week, have a good one. Take care.